Donald Trump is fighting the fight against the big banks. Went on the Squawk Box this morning. All right. Forget the guy's name. Him and Andrew Ross Sorkin. Trump just talked to them via the phone. We just saw Michael Saylor sit down with them recently a couple days ago. We covered here live, guys. Clap it up again. This is Tuesday, August 5th. This is the Coin Zone. I'm Crypto with Paul. We're back here live, guys. If you were with us on yesterday's live, I covered Chokepoint 3.0. All right, JPMorgan, Jamie Dimon, some of these banks are out here doing some shady things. They want all the power. They want users to use their cryptos and blockchains that they will be ushering out instead of traditional crypto firms. So they're getting nasty. So Trump wants to enact an executive order so that they cannot do these things anymore. And he went live on the phone this morning to discuss it with the Squawk Box CNBC. Let's just play these clips, couple minutes, so stick with me. You're going to listen to Donald Trump. We're going to take a look at two different clips. Scott Besson also with some words, and then we're going to go from there. So stick around. If you guys haven't subbed yet, make sure to do that for me on YouTube. And if you're watching on X, make sure to follow us. Let's get right into this.
We have a meeting and people were talking about it with President Xi, and then you went out of your way to kind of say other people are saying, I think you even called it fake news or something. It looked like you were indicating that you were unhappy or that talks had broken down. And we've had a couple of frameworks or some positive moves. In China, you've had a lot of success with other countries. China is a big deal and a big, not quite the elephant in the room, but certainly an important trading partner. Where does that stand? Will there be a meeting between you and President Xi? Anything planned at this point? What's the sticking point now, and how optimistic are you that we get a comprehensive
Well, I can have
deal?
a meeting. We have a very good relationship, but I didn't call for the meeting. He called for the meeting. So the fake news announced Donald Trump wants a meeting with China. No, I didn't want it. No, he asked for a meeting, and I'll end up having a meeting before the end of the year, most likely, if we make a deal. If we don't make a deal, I'm not going to have a meeting. I mean, what's the purpose of meeting if we're not going to make a deal? But we're getting very close to a deal. We're getting along with China very well. I will tell you, you had a point when I had 145% tariffs on. I put in for fentanyl. I actually said to people, where are we now with China, by the way? Because I kept adding more and more. They said, sir, you're up to 145%. I said, you got to be kidding. So I sort of had to bring it down a little bit. But when it was up to 145%, meaning we were doing zero business with China, China was collapsing. I don't know if you know that. You haven't reported it if you do. But China was collapsing. China is very reliant on the United States. My relationship with him is very good. I think we'll make a good deal. It's not imperative, but I think we're going to make a good deal. But no, they had a thing that Donald Trump really wanted to go there. No, I don't. It's a 19-hour flight. It's a long flight. But at some point in the not too distant future, I will. And just to end this conversation in China, I have a very good relationship with President Xi. Always had, other than the COVID moment where I was very angry with him and essentially didn't want to talk to him, frankly.
Let's just pause there real quick. Why is this important, this trade situation with China? Well, in reality, guys, every other deal that we're making with all these other nations, it's tiny compared to China. China is more important than anything. We are the biggest consumer. So like Trump said, slapping tariffs, if America stops consuming as much and purchasing as much from China, that's going to impact their economy. So I think Trump is playing a dangerous game, but he's winning so far. He's doing well in a lot of these metrics. Even inflation is down. Trueflation is down. That's one of the metrics that Jerome Powell looked at, said that's why he didn't want to raise the rates. It was slightly over 2%, and then a week later it was at 1.65% trueflation. So things are going in the right direction. Tariffs seem to be working. There's a ton of revenue that's being collected from these tariffs. Donald Trump and Howard Lutnick actually also proposed giving American citizens $600, not from printing, pandemic stimmy check. This is actually from tariff revenue. So this wouldn't be money that needs to be printed or stolen from American citizens via taxes or something to give to you. No, it's actually from revenue. So that wouldn't even be inflationary. That's just money back in your pockets. So there's a lot of positive things going on. Couple clips here. There's this one other one. Trump, I think, spoke to him for around 40 minutes this morning. I'm just going to go ahead and continue to play some of these things. We'll take a look here. If anything spicy or juicy pops out, we'll talk about it. But after these clips, I'm going to talk about more Trump's executive order that he wants to put against banks so they stop, trying to mess over these crypto firms. And there's a symbiotic relationship, because this is what we need. Again, it's like Jerome Powell not doing what Trump wants him to do. Trump says it's a political thing. He's politicizing it. Maybe Jamie Dimon's doing something similar. Obviously, it wouldn't surprise me. And going against what Trump wants, he's just trying to look out for his own bank. Makes sense to me.
Because, it did come out of Wuhan, in all fairness, which I was saying from the day one. I was saying I knew exactly where it came from. But that did interfere with the relationship. But no, I've had a great relationship with President Xi. We respect him a lot. They respect us a lot. They didn't respect Biden. They thought he was a numbskull. They couldn't believe he was the president of the United States, and neither can anyone else that happened.
Mr. President, on a different topic, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that you're prepping an order that they say would punish banks that discriminate against conservatives, including potentially Bank of America. I'm going to be actually talking to Brian Moynihan here later today. Can you tell us about that executive order? What's in that? And what do you think the banks have done?
Well, they did discriminate. I had JPMorgan Chase. I had hundreds of millions of dollars in cash. I could see if they want to, if they want to do something bad because you don't have any money and you defaulted and they took people out. But I'll give you me as an example. I had hundreds of millions. I had many, many accounts loaded up with cash. I was loaded up with cash. And they told me, I'm sorry, sir. We can't have you. You have 20 days to get out. I said, you got to be kidding. I've been with you for 35, 40 years. They said, and I mean, I had all this. I didn't know what to do with it. And I went to, and you could ask him, maybe he's not going to admit it. So I said, I was informed by my people that we have to get out of Chase Manhattan. That's Jamie and JPMorgan Chase. So I said, I can't believe it. Well, I was never in this situation before. I've never had anything like it. And it's not like, gee, you defaulted on a loan. Geez, I can understand that. That's different. But there's no default. I mean, there's nothing but cash. I have a really great company. And then what happens is I call up Bank of America routinely because when I was president, this was after I got out, by the way, I call up Bank of America routinely. And I speak to him and I speak to a couple of people and they have zero interest. Brian was kissing my ass when I was president. And when I called him after I was president to deposit $1 billion plus and a lot of other things, more importantly, to open accounts, which banks always like. They like accounts because they get interest free, the overnights and things, a lot of reasons for it. But they like accounts. I had hundreds of accounts. And he said, we can't do it. No, we can't do it. So I went to another one. I ended up going to small banks all over the place. I mean, I was putting 10 million.
All right, let's pause here. This is why Donald Trump and his entire family are big on crypto now. This is why half of his net worth is in crypto now, because how can he trust these guys? Did business with them for 30, 40 plus years, he said. All of a sudden, things get political. So you're telling me you can't even access your own money because of political reasons that now a couple years later seem to have subsided because the party and the administration and the people that were politicizing and making Donald Trump out to be this horrible figure, that's like basically being brushed off now. The landscape is very different. All right, we have Sydney Sweeney out here. She's got great genes. Great. American Eagle is out here defending her. Tides are turning. No one seems to really care about all that nonsense that was going on anymore. Right? So now Trump has access to the banks again. Oh, you're fine, sir. We now like you again. But he's saying, hold up. I'm not going to forget all that. Screw this. I'm going to put my money on Bitcoin and Ethereum. World Liberty Fi. Trump personally. They're buying a crap ton of this stuff. This is why. And now he sees them still doing this. No wonder 24 hours later, the man went ahead and said, yeah, I'm going to put an executive order out to stop these banks from doing what they're doing. this is why it's great to see someone like Donald Trump, because he actually is an authoritative figure. And when he speaks, people listen, because he can do things that have consequences for a person like Jamie Dimon. So Jamie's out here doing some shady things. Trump finds out about it 24 hours later. I mean, guys, I just covered this yesterday in the live Chokepoint 3.0. This was like brand new. Sunday, Monday, we kind of found out about this on X, looked into it more yesterday, covered it on the live yesterday. It's now Tuesday, August 5th. 48 hours later, dude's already out here saying, you know what? No, I don't like this. Executive order.
In here, 10 million there, did 5 million, 10 million, 12 million. I have them all over the place, the craziest thing. And it's lucky I even had them. They were doing me a favor. And that's because the banks discriminated against me very badly. And I was very good to the banks. I had the greatest economy in the history of our country when I was president. And by the way, our economy now will blow that away. And you see it happening. But our economy now, because we're a rich country again, because of our trade deals, we've become a rich country again. But no, they totally discriminate against, I think me maybe even more, but they discriminate against many conservatives. You know, I told that story and sitting around tables with other people that were conservative or Trump supporters. I think the word might be Trump supporters more than conservative. And I believe what they did is they went to the regulators. You know, banks are not afraid of anything but a regulator. They're regulators and their wives. They're more afraid of their wives than the regulators. But the group they're really afraid of is bank regulators. And I believe that Biden or Kamala, and I don't think they're smart enough to do it, but the people that are surrounding the beautiful Resolute desk, you know, the high IQ people that are radical left, I believe they told the banking commission, the bankers, that the banking regulators, do everything you can to destroy Trump.
Okay, let's pause there, because yesterday, the video that I played of Brian Armstrong on the Sean Ryan podcast, that's exactly what Brian Armstrong said. And he's someone who was dealing with these regulators over 30 plus meetings Coinbase and Brian had with the SEC. What did Brian say in that clip yesterday? Just to reiterate, if one of you guys are watching right now and you weren't on the stream yesterday, Brian Armstrong on the Sean Ryan podcast basically said, when speaking directly about Elizabeth Warren, who was the one who basically appointed Gary Gensler into that seat, said that she was using the SEC and Gary Gensler as a way to slap on regulations and hit these banks and these certain things and Coinbase with certain things that she couldn't get done via policy, because she literally has one of the worst track records when it comes to a politician of trying to get policy passed. Like, she's very, very bad. So basically she was trying to find another way in, and that was via Gary Gensler. Brian Armstrong confirmed that yesterday. Again, I've said it before, Mark Andreessen has talked about this on plenty of podcasts. Individuals like the Winklevoss twins, other people within crypto trying to start startups, all came out over X after that episode when Mark Andreessen was on the Joe Rogan Experience and talked about it. Plenty of people came forward and said, yeah, that happened to me. Yeah, that happened to me. Yeah, that happened to me. But now we have this guy back. It also happened to him. So I think a lot of these tech entrepreneurs, a lot of these traditional guys like Trump are on sort of a vengeful path because they had things that were wrongly done to them. And now they're in a position where they can create the landscape. So it's kind of nice because it forced, like, not to say I'm glad all that stuff happened, but I mean, would we be as gung-ho as we are right now? Would the president of the United States be as gung-ho as he is right now about crypto if none of this happened? Because, I mean, realistically, he kind of turned to crypto as a safe haven. Again, guys, this is why we're here. Crypto doesn't discriminate. If you want to hold, Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, you don't need to, you can buy it on a cold storage wallet. You can keep it there. A bank's not going to steal that from you unless, like, you give them your seed phrase and anybody can take your stuff. This is the crazy thing. I'm going to stop sharing this. There's another clip that we can play. All right. We're going to take a quick look at that clip and then a couple other things we're going to go take a look at, and then we'll go from there. Stick with me. This is Trump. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent does not want to be Fed chair, but 4 others in the running. That's interesting because we did hear Scott Bessent might be the person to replace Jerome Powell, but I guess that is not true. He doesn't want it. Who are the other four names? Maybe we'll find out right now.
Elaine Chao was on yesterday, and I know, she was, I think she was labor secretary for 8 years under Bush too, and she was your transportation secretary as well. And she said, the commissioner doesn't really even get involved with the actual minutia of putting all these things together. And there's no way that it could have been, that she could have chosen to rig these numbers to make them look bad. And these are statistical changes based on this antiquated system, and it's just a big leap. And we had an extended years.
The labor data is a whole separate thing. Trying to cut to the Fed situation here. We'll see what happens there, but let's just cut to the Fed.
Jerome, too late. Powell, he's too late. He's too late always. He always has been, except when it came to lowering interest rates before the election. He did. He worked that out.
Who would you replace him with? I know you watch the show occasionally, and we had an extended interview with one of the prospective replacements, Kevin Warsh. Were you watching that day, or? I was.
He's very good. He's very good. He's very good. Sometimes they're all very good until you put them in there, and then they don't do so good. But a lot of them, I think he's a very good guy. I think I say Kevin and Kevin. Both Kevins are very good. And there are other people that are very good too. But
Kevin's
a lot of times,
I don't know if that's good.
A lot of times they're very good. Like this character that we have in there now, Jerome Too Late Bell. He was very good. He said, "Sir, I'll keep interest rates so low. I'm a low interest rate person, sir." You could hardly hear him talking over the desk.
Is Warsh
somebody that worked for me was a big fan of his. Not a fan of his. He hardly knew him, but he wanted him so badly. I did somebody a favor. I put him in there. No, he's too late. He's too late. That name will stick to him.
Can you handicap it at all? Who you're, or you won't know? When will you know? And when will you announce it?
I think the two Kevins are doing well, and I have two other people that are doing well. It's in the end, there are numerous people that are qualified. Everyone on your phone right now, in terms of at your beautiful studio, would be very qualified, in my opinion. You guys are better than most of the people that do it for a living. But I watched a lot, actually. No, I think that it'll be one of four people.
Are the other
I'm going to make
names...
the decision soon. And don't forget, we have somebody that left early, which was a pleasant surprise. We have a woman that left early. She announced 2 days ago that she's leaving, and I'm going to be announcing that very shortly, too. That will be, most likely it'll be for the 4 months, for the short period of time. But a lot of people say that when you do that, why don't you just pick the person who's going to head up the Fed?
Okay. So we don't know the names. We know one Kevin Warsh. He didn't really say the other name of the Kevin. So I guess that's that. We'll figure it out. Who will the new Fed chair be? Nobody knows. But I have a couple things I want to take a look at, ladies and gentlemen. This is right from us at the Coinbase update. Bitcoin cools as altcoins heat up. Why do I want to focus our attention on this real quick? Well, because the past couple weeks, these lives have been coming here talking about Bitcoin dominance, the charts that are swinging back to when are altcoins going to start heating up over Bitcoin. It looks like we're continuing to see that. Bitcoin slipped 0.12% overnight, falling to $114,000, now 7% off the July 14th all-time high. Meanwhile, alts are seeing green across the board. Fed chair, we might see rate cuts in September. Polymarket odds have it like past 80% now, I believe, something like that. Also want to take a look at this clip as well, though not clip, but this is what I'm talking about, man. White House prepares to track banks debanking crypto firms. Wall Street Journal reports executive order will trigger investigations into potential discrimination. So again, guys, it took this guy less than 48 hours to respond to what these banks are doing. Again, why? Possibly because he was wrongfully by these banks. He is, I'm assuming, on some sort of a vengeful path right now to try to get even with these banks and try to stop them from doing these things. And again, it's why that America is leading right now when it comes to crypto, because the president of the United States had to turn to crypto. Like, listen to how freaking insane that is. One of the most successful American entrepreneurs the country has ever seen and Donald Trump. And again, you feel how you want to feel about that. But okay, like just you want to be honest about things. The dude's done everything under the sun. He's done more things than like Snoop Dogg has. Snoop Dogg has done literally everything you can think of. Him and Shaq just are out here doing anything, it seems like. Right? But Trump is, you've seen him everywhere for decades. His net worth is over $5 billion. Half of that now is basically in crypto. Why? Because of situations like this. We just listened to him ramble on. The banks blocked basically millions and millions and millions of dollars from him. He had 20 days to get it all out. Goes to Bank of America. Sorry, sir, we're not going to take it. He had to use regional banks across the country to store that stuff. And then he just turned to crypto. So yeah, this is what we're seeing. We got the president has our back. Insane. And I think things are just going to continue to heat up in the right direction. They're buying a lot of ETH. Everyone's still buying a lot of ETH right now. You guys should check out this. We have a video coming out soon about these cards. Stay tuned for that. I've showed you guys on the stream before. I have the Coinbase debit card. You will see me discuss it and break it down how I use this in my everyday purchases. So stick around for that video. Subscribe to us on YouTube in the meantime. This is what we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen. And again, I want to remind you why we are in crypto, just to drive it home. Before the Fed was started in 1913, since we're still talking about JP, Jerome Powell, our favorite guy, United States note, Federal Reserve note. If you guys have dollars on you right now, it will say a Federal Reserve note. That money is backed by nothing, and they print it out of thin air. The Federal Reserve prints it. They can't do that with either of these guys. All right? That's the whole appeal. Whether you don't like Bitcoin or ETH, doesn't matter. This is what blockchain offers. Something that makes more sense for the people, that isn't controlled by an institution that nobody even voted for. That is my play here, guys. I want to remind you why we were all in this. You want to see what my shirt says? If you can't read what my shirt says, it says, I'm the bank, I think, something like that. I'm the bank. I'm the captain now. Okay? We're out here, ladies and gentlemen. This is the whole point. If you guys haven't subbed to us yet, make sure to do that. I just want to let you know how you can live a life outside of the US dollar comfortably, easily, right? I charge my Tesla with my Coinbase card. I buy groceries with it. I take my girlfriend out to dinner. I do a lot with it. Get my haircut, which reminds me, I have to make an appointment to get my haircut because it's getting a little long. It's not that bad actually, but you know, why not? It's looked nice for you guys. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're out here. Trump's got our back. We'll see what happens if this executive order gets passed. But we do want Chokepoint 3.0 to go away. So I will be staying tuned. If I see any breaking news today, I'm going live with it instantly. I'll probably be live 3 or 4 more times today. So stay tuned, guys. Appreciate you for tapping in so far today. This is the Coin Zone on Crypto with Paul. See you guys again in a little bit.